This stand will eventually support nearly 2,000 pounds of aquarium. Today I'm going to show you exactly how I build it using Dado joints. So why did I choose Dado joints, and why am I making this aquarium video or stand video on Dado joints? Because they're strong. They're very strong, and they're also efficient use of wood. So I've got 3 2x4s, and then 3 2x4s in the back, and then 2x6s. And with the Dado cutouts, where the 2x4s are coming across, all of the weight that is being held up, the aquariums are holding up these 2,000 pounds of aquarium with water, is all running down this 2x6 into the floor. And so that makes it incredibly efficient and incredibly strong. The only thing else I have, and these aren't really for support, but I have these 2x6s, and that's more for torsional rigidity. And then over here on the end, I have some ones that I put here, and once again, same thing, just for that torsional rigidity. But the weight is coming down through the 2x6 to the floor, transferred across, down to the floor. This stand will eventually support nearly 2,000 pounds of aquarium. Today I'm going to show you exactly how I build it using Dado joints.
So to build the stand, I needed 9 2x4x8s and 6 2x6x8s. So some of the tools that you're going to want to use. The clips that I have, those big long clips, those are really helpful in keeping the boards aligned, and I'll talk about that later when I'm cutting. You also want to have a file and some chisels to hollow out the Dado boards. I used 3-inch wood screws to put the boards together, level, a T, and then I also used a circular saw. Now, later on, I went and got a chop saw. I think a chop saw is better, but a circular saw can work. And then, of course, you're going to need a screwdriver and assorted bits. So here's the rough sketch that I did of the stand. So the stand was supposed to be 16 inches at the bottom, and then 2.5 for the 2x4s going across, and then 32 inches between each section. The total length was supposed to be 84 inches. Now, it didn't end up that way, and I think that's one of the learning curves here, is that you kind of have your plans, and then your plans change, but we'll talk about how the plans changed. So this is a triangle, and it's really good for making straight lines across the boards. You notice they have all the boards lined up, and this is what I use to make my straight lines across to make the Dado cuts. So it's really important that you line up your bottoms of the boards really nice and straight, and you can see there that mine are. Also, you can see that the clips are really good at holding the boards together and allowing all your cuts to be nice and straight. Now at the top you can see they're not so even, but that's not such a big deal because you can straighten those out or even those out, but having the bottom straight is really critical to having a nice level stand. So this is the fun part, is cutting these Dado joints out. Now you would need a circular saw for this. I don't think a chop saw would work. It might work, but I think a circular saw would be best. And you notice that I'm going down through them, cutting them, an inch apart or half an inch, as probably as closely as I can. And then I'm using my chisel to take out the pieces. And that's kind of the fun part, is taking those pieces out. And so here's the completed project, or the completed Dado cuts. And you can see the bottom one. That was the first one. And in hindsight, I probably should have done that last. Because as I get through them, they get progressively better. But it ends up working out that the bottom one is not done as well. You can see that it's a little loose. You know, it should fit tightly. It's not bad, but that's the first time I've ever done a dado cut. You can see that the board is not flush because I set the saw too deep. I set it for like 2.5 inches, and the saw should have been set for like 1.5 inches because a 2x4 is 1.5 inches thick. And there's my second cut. It's better. It's actually very tight. So that's a good cut. And then the top one is my best cut. And you have to go through and you use the file and you file them down so you can see it's nice and smooth. And you can see that's nice and smooth. It's not a lot of space, not a lot of wiggle room. So that was my best cut. And it ends up working out because that actually becomes my bottom. Because when I take it inside, I realize that the stand's too tall. The top shelf is really unusable. So I ended up using the bottom, or this is my top, as my bottom. And then cutting off the bottom to make it so it's not as tall. So it ends up working out. And I think that's one of the things that I really learned making this stand is, you know, I made some mistakes, but the mistakes ended up working out. And I had to make some changes along the way. And so here I am, brought in the 2x6s and the 2x4s and screwing them together with those 3-inch screws. I did it inside because it's just easier to work with it inside. Like, this stand is heavy. So building it where you're going to put it is probably a better idea than building it and then carrying it in. I can carry it. It is like, takes two people, but it's just better if you don't have to. So here's the stand as far as its completion of building. So it turned out nice. On the left side, it's going to have a 20 long and a 29 gallon below, and then on the right side, it's going to have a 275 gallons, and then the top shelf I'm going to use for storage. So for the shelving, I decided to use 1/2-inch birch plywood. And when I get to painting, I'm going to stain that. And here you can see my dado cuts, and you see the one at the top that's kind of messed up, and it's not really that big of a deal. That was the bottom one that I cut too deep, but it's at the top, so it really doesn't affect anything. And then I've got a nice dado cut at the bottom. So at each end I did put some leftover 2x6 material, and that helps with the torsional rigidity of the stand. It also makes it look nice. And then in between the stand, those are all 15-inch 2x4s, and once again, they don't really support anything. They're just there kind of for torsional rigidity. The 2x4s and the 2x6s are really doing all the lifting and the holding of the 2,000 pounds. So that's a wrap on my video for the Dado cut stand. I have it painted now. I'm going to stain it. I'm going to do a video on painting and staining it, but I am not a skilled carpenter. I'm not somebody that uses tools a lot. A lot of these tools I've used for the first time doing this stand. Once again, first time. So hopefully that's reassuring to you. That someone who has very limited skills, just learning things, made some mistakes in measuring, but it ended up working out okay. And I ended up having a stand that I'm very confident will hold over 2,000 gallons of water, 275 gallon tanks, a 30 gallon tank, and a 29 gallon tank, and still exceed that. So if you're someone like me who wants to build their own stand, but you're kind of, I don't know if I have the skills, don't worry, I don't have the skills either. But the product behind you looks good, and it's going to look better as I put on the stain and do some other fixing up on the stand. But hope you enjoyed this video. Hope this will help you build your own dado cut stand and give you the confidence to do it. God bless.